Welcome to my views on news. Breaking news for you. Getachew Reda, Tigray presidential spokesperson, has been elected as the leader, the head of interim government of Tigray. Who elected him? And will PM Abiy's government approve this nomination from Tigray? Is there consensus in Tigray for the nomination of Getachew Reda as the head of interim government? Which other candidates contested in this election? Which committee elected Getachew Reda? And Getachew Reda was spokesperson of Debrecen. Where is Debrecen? Several questions. Firstly, viewers, we know that efforts have been underway in Tigray for the formation of interim government, which is one of the provisions of Pretoria deal signed in November last year. The deal stipulates that an interim government will be formed in Tigray, which will hold regional election. But we have been seeing political wrangling in Tigray within TPLF, between TPLF and military, between TPLF and opposition parties for the formation of interim government. And the last development we saw was a meeting between TPLF leaders and PM Abiy. Meeting was held reportedly in Bishoftu. Debrecen represented TPLF. Debrecen shared a list of interim government members with TPLF as major party. Reportedly, the list included his name as well, Debrecen's name as a leader of the interim government. PM Abiy rejected that list. He did not want Debrecen to be the leader of interim government. He said it wasn't necessary that interim government head should be from TPLF. Reportedly, PM Abiy proposed Sadkan's name. Did he propose Getachew Reda's name too? It's not clear. Then TPLF leaders returned to Mekelle. Before that, we saw almost 2 weeks ago, we saw that General Reda was made head of committee to finalize names and to create consensus for the creation of for the formation of interim government in Tigray. And then Reda, Debrecen, all were chosen as the ones who would have leading roles in the interim setup. Opposition parties, Salseviene, Betona, and Tigray Independence Party, they are boycotting this process of the formation of interim government. Military, some sections of military are opposing as well. Sadkan has published an article sharing his view of how interim government should be elected. Now, what happened is that after failed meeting between TPLF and PM Abiy, a TPLF Central Committee met in Tigray. 41-member Central Committee of the Tigray People Liberation Front voted to elect the head of, or to propose the head of Interim Regional Administration, IRA. Getachew Reda contested this election. Secondly, Fisseha Heftotsion contested the election too. Some other candidates as well. Two main candidates were Getachew Reda and Fisseha Heftotsion. Getachew Reda got 18 votes. Out of 41, he got 18 votes. Fisseha Heftotsion got 17 votes. So it was a very close contest. Some other candidates got a few votes, but mainly the two candidates. 41 member Central Committee and Getachew and Fisseha got 35 votes together. LM Gebrewahed, a senior TPLF leader, opposed Getachew Reda's nomination, and obviously 17 other members too, who voted for Fisseha Heftotsion. By the way, both Getachew and Fisseha Heftotsion were members of the Committee of Negotiators, which negotiated with Ethiopian federal government representatives in Pretoria, and then peace deal was signed. So both represented Tigray on behalf of Tigray. Debretsion was not a candidate at this election. So Getachew Reda has now been elected as TPLF's candidate for interim government head. Now, it does not mean that Tigray has created consensus for the formation of interim government. Why? Because obviously opposition parties are yet to speak. What will they say? Will they back Getachew Reda, or will they contest themselves for this slot? It's just one party's candidate. Is Tigray's military on board? Difficult to say, because we know that Tigray's military commanders split. Sadkan was reportedly supportive of Getachew Reda. Reda was standing with Debretsion. Debretsion removed. Now, the Reda group, will this group support Getachew? Will have to see. This group will have some concerns. Debretsion removed. I said 2 days ago that Debretsion had no one to blame but himself. He chose a man to be his spokesperson, and then he just went into hiding. It was Getachew Reda which was handling international media, It was Getachew Reda who had a meeting with Antony Blinken. Getachew Reda was talking to international players. If you remember, in June 2021, when Getachew Reda was interviewed by a foreign journalist in Tigray, I did a video. Back then, I had said that Getachew could be next Tigray's leader. Back then, viewers said, Sajid, you don't know what is happening in Tigray. He can never be a leader of Tigray government, but at least nomination has been made. So let's see how this nomination goes further. Of course, without PM Abiy's approval, without federal government's approval, Getachew cannot be the president of the region for interim setup. And by the way, Getachew was heard saying that all TPLF leaders should resign. They should take responsibility. And now he is ready to be the head of interim setup. It means that his demand for resignation of all TPLF leaders was a way of paving the ground for his own election. He had his political ambition. So that is why he removed the person for which he was speaking, Debretsion Gebremichael. Several questions. Will this nomination keep the party united? I don't think so. The party is united, but we'll see more political wrangling within TPLF now, because it was a very close contest. He won by just 1 vote lead. He got 18 votes, Fisseha got 17 votes. It means there are 2 equally powerful factions at TPLF Central Committee. And secondly, it is the Central Committee which has elected Getachew Reda, not entire TPLF. Entire TPLF will entire TPLF back Getachew's nomination? Again, a question. So efforts are underway. Let's see how things unfold in coming days. And PM Abiy was quoted by some international news outlets that he wanted someone not from TPLF to lead Tigray in interim period. But Getachew is obviously from TPLF. And can we say Getachew's election shows a change in Tigray? Obviously, no change. Both Getachew, Debretsion are two top TPLF leaders. It's just change of face. Debretsion goes, Getachew comes. Basically, no change. And importantly, we'll have to see how he engages the opposition. Will he try to take opposition on board? How far will opposition support him? I think he might get approval from Addis Ababa. Problem could be from within Tigray. He might get approval from international community as well. He has been in touch with international players, international media. But is Tigray going to embrace Getachew Reda as interim setup leader? Interim setup will last for a few months, maybe a year. So he's not the head of the region for coming years, mainly for interim setup.